Well, as we wind down 2015, homeowners are indeed urged to exercise caution during the festive season. Experts say that there's a spike of almost 10% in burglary cases, but 2015 also saw a huge increase in the number of police killings, with 82 cops being gunned down. Earlier on this year, a spate of xenophobic violence across South Africa saw thousands of foreigners flee the country. And of course, drug busts were a frequent occurrence during the first 9 months of the year at entry points into the country and some affluent suburbs. Well, Dr. Chris de Kock is an independent crime, violence and crowd behaviour analyst. We chat to him now from our Pretoria studios. Good afternoon, Doc, and thank you for your time on the SABC News Desk.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Dr. de Kock, why do we see such a peak in crime during the holiday season? Is it that criminals are more desperate, or members of the public less vigilant, perhaps?
Well, it's a case of both. Criminals this time of the year, they want more money, they need more money, so they become desperate and they become more active. While on the other hand, the public is relaxing and going away, and that create the chances for example, for the burglars to burgle houses.
Doc, the recent crime stats show that there have been 20,000 house robberies reported to police annually. Burglaries stand about 254,000 too. So we're seeing more burglaries, of course. What's the difference between a house robbery and a burglary?
Well, the difference is basically that in the case of robbery, there's some force being used. So the people must be present, the victims must be present, and then people are pointed with a firearm or another weapon, and sometimes they are tortured and those kind of things. So violence is used against them. So in the case of burglaries, the victim is usually not present. It's while you are away from your home, the house gets burglared, or the people are asleep and they are not aware of the fact that there are people inside the house taking certain items.
How are criminals gaining access to homes? What are the trends we're seeing, and what should homeowners be on the lookout for this festive season?
Well, the trends stay the same. I mean, it's always the same things that they use, and it depends on the security systems in the house. But in cases where you just have the ordinary burglar bars and so on, what they will do is they will, in all probability, look for an open window. You know, the glass part, the window itself must be open, and then they will try to cut the burglar proofing, and then in that way they will get access to the house. But if there's there's layers of protection outside the house, you know, like a electrical fence linked to a siren, then they will usually find a way of getting under the fence, under the electric fence, or cut the electric fence in certain cases where they are sure that the siren won't be activated. And then they will have to work...
No, go ahead.
Then they will have to work their way through the different layers. For example, if there's beams in the garden, they will either go under the beams or they will have to find a way of getting through that.
All right.
So it depends on your security systems.
All right. Another big one for the year, Chris, was the cop killings. We had 82 men in blue gunned down this year alone. What are some of the circumstances around these sort of killings? Are they in direct response to police intervention?
I think in most cases it is a case where the police react on a call. They have to rush to a scene of crime, and that is where they then get involved in a gunfight, in a shootout, and that is where they get killed, or where they try to arrest criminals, and then they are surprised and they are killed. Those are the circumstances in most cases where they get killed. Now, sometimes people say, but most police officers are killed while they are off duty. But you must remember, a police officer stays on duty 24 hours a day and will place himself or herself on duty when there is, for example, a robbery in a mall or a shopping center.
All right, earlier on this year, we saw xenophobia rear its ugly head. It's not a new phenomenon in our country, but neither are we the only country grappling with it. But we are seeing a spike in the frequency of such attacks, and we saw really an increased brutality. It manifested in a kind of mob looting. What motivates this sort of crowd behaviour, Doc, where discretion gets thrown out of the window for a short while at least?
Well, look, underlying xenophobia is negative stereotypes. It's like racism. It's like any of the hate crimes where you will find negative stereotypes where people really think that a foreigner is something like, below a human being. And that underlies, unfortunately, those stereotypes, this behavior. When the behavior starts, when there's a mob, immediately your mob behavior starts. There's things like cohesion within the mob. You may find people who don't agree with the action of the mob, but they will go with the mob because they are too afraid to do differently. Or you will find that also there is, a mob can be can become more angry when certain things happen. For rumors are spreading. For example, that a foreigner have done something wrong, maybe raped somebody or killed somebody, and that may then also increase the group cohesion. So there's a whole lot of group dynamics involved in mob behavior.
Doctor, very quickly, we are running out of time. Drug busts this year. There looks to be a pattern emerging now with labs like the one in Durban Kloof early on this year, 2 billion rand of heroin being seized there. And it's happening in fairly affluent suburbs. What are some of the signs one should look out for? And an interesting dynamic in certain neighborhoods is that the drug lord himself is being protected by community members as he often performs or gives assistance or performs favors perhaps, and this kind of perverse loyalty is very difficult when it comes to countering such crime.
Yeah, look, in certain areas you will find that the drug lord is actually protecting the people, so the people are protecting them. But in the normal, if I can call them normal, average suburbs that we live in, you can look for a house which is basically, it stands empty, but there's a lot of movement, a lot of people coming in and out of that house. That may be a sign of that it is a drug house or a lab. And then also, when you find, for example, nobody's actually seen in the garden, or the garden there's no real people looking after the garden, but there's some constant movement of people. Also, you may get some smells of the chemicals. Some of the chemicals that are used have a certain smell, and that may also be a sign that house is used as a lab.
Thank you, Doctor. That was Dr. Chris de Kock, an independent crime analyst, joining us from our Pretoria studios.